At dawn on July 10, 1945, Argentine fishermen working near the naval base at Mar del Plata spotted an unexpected silhouette on the horizon. The massive hull of a submarine suddenly broke the surface, heading directly toward the harbor entrance. It was U-530 from the German Kriegsmarine, arriving unannounced 2 months after the war in Europe had ended. Its unexpected appearance at such a late hour would spark international newspaper sensations, official investigations, and create a legend that would live in history for decades to come. This is the story of a submarine that managed to escape the collapse of an empire and reach the other side of the world. U-530 was a strategic weapon of the Nazi fleet, a Type IXC submarine designed for distant autonomous raids far from home ports. Its hull stretched approximately 77 meters, with a displacement of over 1,100 tons. The combat arsenal included 6 torpedo tubes, 4 in the bow, 2 in the stern, and up to 22 torpedoes. In the early stages of the war, such boats were equipped with 105mm deck guns, though many were removed as the conflict wore on. Powerful anti-aircraft artillery and radar equipment transformed U-530 into a formidable hunter. With an innovative snorkel and powerful diesel engines, she could cover over 13,000 nautical miles while remaining invisible thanks to extended underwater endurance. The crew consisted of 44 to 54 officers and enlisted men. U-530's combat record was eventful. Under previous captains, she completed 6 war patrols, sending 2 enemy merchant vessels to the bottom and damaging another. In January 1945, command passed to 24-year-old Oberleutnant Otto Wermuth, a young, ambitious submarine officer determined to prove his combat credentials. This was his first command, and he saw it as a final opportunity to leave his mark on a crumbling empire. The final order and a dangerous choice. The fateful final cruise of U-530 began in the war's twilight. On March 3, 1945, Wermuth departed the submarine base at Horten, Norway, with orders to disrupt Allied shipping in the western Atlantic. After a covert passage around the British Isles, remaining submerged for the most part to avoid lethal air patrols, U-530 reached North American waters by late April. Initially assigned to hunt convoys near Halifax, Wermuth found few worthy targets and decided to head south, toward the pulsing maritime corridors off the New York coast. In the first week of May 1945, U-530 launched several attacks on Allied vessels, but the results were disappointing. From May 4 to 7, the boat fired 9 torpedoes at convoys, but all either missed their targets or malfunctioned. These were the last shots U-530 would ever fire in combat. On May 8, 1945, Germany surrendered unconditionally. At that moment, U-530 was drifting in mid-Atlantic, approximately 1,000 miles east of Puerto Rico. Admiral Karl Donitz, Hitler's successor, issued an order to all submarines: cease hostilities and surrender at the nearest Allied port. For submarine crews, this message, transmitted with maximum priority, meant one thing: the war was over. Dozens of submarines surfaced and surrendered in May. Others chose self-scuttling, implementing the operational plan, Regenbogen, better to go down fighting than fall into enemy hands. But Oberleutnant Wermuth made a different, fateful decision. According to his later testimony, he doubted the authenticity of the surrender order, fearing it might be an Allied trick. Instead of heading to the nearest port to surrender, Wermuth turned his helm toward Argentina, a neutral country, or so he believed. He didn't know that Argentina had declared war on Germany just weeks earlier. Wermuth ordered his crew to cease all combat operations and prepare for an extended underwater journey into the unknown. Believing his men would receive better treatment in a distant country, he hoped salvation lay in escape. A journey through darkness. The long, nightmarish voyage lasted over 70 days. During daylight, the submarine hid at depth, using an innovative snorkel to ventilate the diesel engines and recharge batteries while remaining just below the surface. At night, as the sun set, U-530 cautiously surfaced to make good speed in the open ocean. Every precaution was taken to avoid detection. The crew even refrained from using the radio except for routine weather reports. Yet there was one anxious task that consumed many hours of labor. In accordance with standing instructions from Donitz, Wermuth began throwing overboard everything that might interest Allied intelligence, or pose a danger upon surrender. Ocean waves swallowed the remaining torpedoes, except one with a dead battery, the warheads and gyroscopes, all encoded signal books and the ship's log, even the anti-aircraft ammunition and radar equipment. U-530 was shedding weight and secrets as she crawled toward the South American continent. The route was cautious and winding. The boat passed east of Bermuda, crossed the equator in mid-June 1945 under the cover of darkness. By late June, U-530 had entered the South Atlantic, provisions running low, yet the boat remained undetected. At first, Wermuth considered surrendering near Miramar, close to Buenos Aires, but ultimately chose Mar del Plata as the most suitable location for his final meeting with destiny. On the night of July 9, 1945, U-530 approached the Argentine coast. After more than 70 days of sailing since Germany's capitulation, Wermuth's crew prepared to surrender at last. The boat surfaced off Mar del Plata and cautiously began approaching the harbor, traveling on the surface through darkness. The dawn of suspicion. Just before sunrise on July 10, 1945, U-530 made her move. The German crew hoisted a massive white flag and switched on navigation lights as they approached the harbor entrance at Mar del Plata. The sudden appearance of a submarine caught Argentine defenders off guard. According to one account, the boat even slipped past a sentry who happened to be looking the other way. Entering the port area, Wermuth flashed the words, "Submarino Alemán," German submarine, signaling peaceful intentions. Argentine military personnel quickly mobilized and surrounded the unexpected visitor. U-530 formally surrendered to the Argentine Navy on the morning of July 10, 1945, ending its mysterious odyssey. All 54 crew members were led ashore, fed hot food, even given haircuts, and then promptly placed under guard. But this was only the beginning of one of World War II's most intriguing mysteries. The immediate question everyone asked: where had U-530 come from, and why so late, 2 months after surrender? When Argentine officers interrogated Oberleutnant Wermuth, he offered only a vague and incomplete account. He admitted that on VE Day, May 8, his submarine was in the North Atlantic and that he had decided to sail to Argentina to surrender there. However, Wermuth could not satisfactorily explain why the voyage had taken over 2 months when a direct route should have required only a few weeks. Suspicion grew when Argentines discovered that U-530 had arrived without her log, without any torpedoes, without a deck gun, and with the crew carrying no personal identification documents. Wermuth claimed he had thrown the log and secret materials overboard, along with unused ammunition, but his evasive answers about the submarine's route and activities did little to ease mounting suspicions. Worse still, he initially lied that the diesel engines were malfunctioning, later confessing that he had deliberately sabotaged them before entering port, pouring acid into the motors to ensure U-530 could not be easily refurbished and reused. Such actions clearly suggested Wermuth was hiding something about U-530's final mission. Theories and legends. News of the submarine's mysterious surrender spread rapidly, reaching Allied authorities and neighboring countries. Within days, Argentina, which had only declared war on Germany in March 1945, found itself at the center of intense international scrutiny. The Argentine Navy moved the crew to an inland detention camp and agreed to hand the submarine over to the United States in the spirit of Allied cooperation. American and Argentine intelligence officers subjected Wermuth and his men to extensive interrogations. Again and again, the Germans denied carrying any passengers, refugees, or valuable cargo. Wermuth repeatedly insisted that throughout the entire voyage, there had not been a single outsider aboard U-530, either civilian nor military. For skeptics, such denials were expected. If U-530 had carried secret passengers or cargo, the crew would hardly confess to it. The absence of ship's logs and a clear chronology only fueled imagination. Despite Wermuth's evasive answers about the exact route and 2-month delay, no concrete evidence of wrongdoing was immediately discovered. The official communiqué issued by the Argentine Navy shortly after emphasized that no high-ranking Nazi officials had been aboard U-530. No one had been landed on Argentine shores, and the submarine had not participated in any hostile acts such as the recent sinking of the Brazilian cruiser Bahia. In short, Argentina publicly declared U-530 surrender to be routine, but in private circles, many questioned whether there was more to the story. U-530's mysterious voyage unleashed a storm of rumors and conspiracy theories that persist to this day. In July 1945, regional press and some Allied officials openly speculated about sensational possibilities. One theory proposed that U-530 had made a clandestine detour to spirit Adolf Hitler and Eva Braun to safety. An Argentine journalist claimed to have seen a police report describing a mysterious submarine landing on the remote Patagonian coast and unloading a high-ranking officer and a civilian. Around the same time, the FBI in the United States received unconfirmed reports that a German submarine had put ashore in southern Argentina in May 1945 with Hitler aboard. These dramatic allegations captured newspaper headlines despite the lack of any hard evidence. U-530 was also accused by a Brazilian admiral of torpedoing the cruiser Bahia on July 4, 1945. Since the submarine's presence in the South Atlantic roughly coincided with that tragedy, another Brazilian naval officer speculated that U-530 might even have come all the way from Japan, hinting at some final Axis collaboration. The fact that U-977, another German submarine, arrived in Argentina 5 weeks later, surrendering on August 17, 1945, only added fuel to the conspiracy fire. If two U-boats appeared in Argentina, some wondered, could they have been on secret missions to deliver Nazi leaders, war spoils, or advanced technology to a safe haven? Debunking the myths. In reality, most of these theories have been debunked or remain unsupported by evidence. A post-war Brazilian inquiry conclusively established that Bahia was sunk by an accidental on-board explosion during gunnery drills, not by any submarine attack. No credible proof ever emerged linking U-530 to Hitler's escape. Exhaustive Allied investigations concluded with virtual certainty that Hitler died in his bunker in May 1945. Similarly, while many Nazi officials did flee to Argentina, most arriving by air or through other routes in the years after the war, there is no confirmed record of U-530 transporting anyone or anything. American naval intelligence reports from 1945 note that the entire crew of U-530 consistently denied any passengers or special cargo, and physical inspection of the boat revealed no secret compartments beyond normal storage spaces. The captain of U-977, interrogated separately, also maintained that his submarine had no connection to U-530's voyage. Although it is understandable why the unexplained delay and missing log fueled speculation, historians generally conclude that U-530's late surrender was an act of mutinous disobedience and self-preservation, not a Hollywood-style Nazi escape plot. Wermuth likely destroyed the log and weaponry to cover up his defiance of orders and to prevent any possible incrimination of his crew. The end of the story. Following surrender, U-530's crew spent several weeks under Argentine guard before being handed over to the United States for further interrogation. In August 1945, the U.S. Navy took possession of U-530 as a war prize, part of a program to study captured German technology. The submarine, along with the later arriving U-977, was towed to the Panama Canal and then up the east coast of the United States. That autumn, U-530 made a brief tour of several American port cities, a public exhibition of a defeated submarine before the Navy decided it had outlived its usefulness. The men of U-530 were eventually repatriated to Germany in 1947 after 2 years as prisoners of war. Oberleutnant Otto Wermuth himself survived the war and lived into old age, though details of his subsequent life remain sparse. In the end, no crew member was charged with wrongdoing beyond failing to follow the original surrender order. The final fate of U-530 came in late 1947 when the U.S. Navy selected the submarine for destruction as a target. On November 28, 1947, off the coast of Cape Cod, the American submarine USS Toro lined up U-530 in its periscope and fired a live torpedo. The weapon struck U-530 amidships, splitting the submarine in two and sending her to the Atlantic's bottom in a plume of fire, water, and debris. What had begun as a stealthy commerce raider for the Kriegsmarine ended as scrap metal on the ocean floor off Massachusetts. A quiet conclusion to a voyage shrouded in mystery. The legacy of the Ghost. U-530's strange journey left a legacy disproportionate to her modest wartime record. In Argentina, the submarine's arrival in 1945 became part of immediate post-war folklore, reinforcing suspicions about Nazi activities in South America. The incident did prompt Argentine authorities to demonstrate cooperation with the Allies, as evidenced by their swift transfer of the boat and crew to U.S. custody. On the international stage, U-530 and the later arriving U-977 served as stark evidence that not every enemy vessel surrendered exactly when and where expected. A handful of stragglers charted their own course in the chaotic final days of World War II. U-530 remains an intriguing case study of Operation Regenbogen's aftermath and the psychology of submarine crews facing defeat. The mystery continues to fascinate, a real-world footnote where fact and legend have often intertwined. While conspiracy theorists have woven elaborate tales around U-530's final mission, the consensus of historical evidence is far more grounded. The submarine's 2-month disappearance was likely spent hiding from Allied retribution, not smuggling Hitler to a Patagonian hideout. Yet the very lack of a definitive log or full disclosure from Wermuth means U-530's story retains several unanswered questions. In the end, this lone submarine surrender in a distant port encapsulates the tumultuous end of World War II. U-530's voyage to Argentina has secured its place as one of naval history's strangest final missions ever recorded.